Okay, you should see my screen now. So the questions start from, well, go from the beginning of the webinar in terms of the presenters. So I think the first three are for Ross and Jelle. Yeah, Ross, I understand you're here. Give me just a moment to unmute you. Okay. First question. Were the priority issues identified in the UK research the low-hanging fruit, or do they represent the most critical aspects that need to be tackled regardless of the effort required?
Very good question. They don't the ones that I highlighted, the top 15, don't represent the low-hanging fruit. They were the ones that we felt were most critical, regardless of effort. So there were some in that diagram that you will have seen that are particularly challenging for us to try and improve, because many of them are cultural issues which take a long time and a lot of investment. And I have to say they are frequently driven by changes in compliance and regulation environment. As we heard from Sean, it was a great explanation of if industry are set a clear challenge that will bring pain in 12 months' time, I think it was, for the continual testing on site, then activities will be triggered at boardroom level that will mean people can, for example, start to change the way that they procure skills on site and educate their site teams. So, yeah, the ones that we highlighted are by far from the low-hanging fruit, but they are the ones that are considered most critical.
Okay, very well. Next question, is it realistic to express, probably expect, it should be here, such precision in constructions and installations with a present building workforce, or is there a significant need for training?
Shall I take that one too, Alex?
I think all three of the first three are for you and Jelle.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So it's a very interesting challenge that we face. There are some things in terms of accuracy and precision that we as manufacturers can help with in the way that we both design our products and the way that we guide the workforce. So as an example, lots of work has gone on. I'll give a KNAUF example because I'm from KNAUF, but obviously I represent the wider industry too. But we did lots of work looking at something as simple as the fit of the insulation materials between the rafters when they're placed at an angle in the roof space. It became apparent that we could do much to make the friction fit much better. So when you put the product in place, it stayed there while the rest of the construction was built. So we can do some things to take our responsibility beyond the packaging, is the way that I describe it. But also, as I hopefully began to mention, is the training is absolutely critical, because we can't imagine a world, and again, Sean's presentation explained this beautifully, we would be unwise to imagine a world where there are watchmen watching watchmen watching watchmen, and there's no sense of responsibility or knowledge within particularly the site workforce, because ultimately, if we're talking about retrofit in particular, it's the people on site who make the final design decisions, and we need to plant the critical information in their minds to say, well, if I change this detail here because I think it will help with speed of construction, for example, they should have a big red flashing light of their own in their mind saying that's going to cause me real problems with air movement and moisture movement, for example. Final question for me, initiatives from the installation suppliers to support correct installation in practice. Yes, our technical sales teams and within KNAUF we have a role, and it's similar in many other manufacturers, we have regional technical managers. So we have our own team of practical gurus is the way that I describe them. So they're people who inspect installations and construction sites from our perspective, and they are the ones that give the toolbox talks and try and bring the knowledge to the coalface, for want of a better description, so that people, for example, with the zero carbon hub work, one of the site inspections for new build looked at the position of the window frame relative to the insulation in the wall. and I believe on about 90% of the sites we visited, the frame was in the wrong place relative to the insulation. It may have been perfectly drawn on the design detailing to show the correct overlap and positioning, but we discovered two things. One, the people who were installing the windows may have been doing it for 10, 15 years, and nobody had told them that the detail had changed, or nobody had told them it's important for you to keep track of the drawings and look at them to check nothing's changed. And also often, the procurement team had bought a window and a window sill, so the element that goes to the outside and to the inside to finish the wall. They had bought a standard window sill, which meant when the assembly of parts was put in place, you could only really install it in the wrong position, if that makes sense. So if in the old way you'd install the window, you needed a sill that was 50 millimeters long. If as a window installer, you have a sill that's 50 millimeters, you would naturally install it so the package of kit looked correct. So it's a responsibility across the supply chain. The procurement people need to know exactly what to order, and the people on site need to know how to install it correctly. And the people controlling the site management or the team leaders need to be aware by toolbox talks and education that the construction industry isn't as static as many believe. There are innovations coming, and we need to make sure everybody is aware that things are changing.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was very clear. I give the floor to Per Johansson for the next questions, which are for his presentation, I think. First, do vacuum insulation panels require special care during installation? Are they fragile compared to other building elements?
Yes, thank you for these questions. I don't think they need special care more than other materials, but from what we see today at the construction sites, there is not very much concern how you deal with the materials, so there are a lot of damages on materials. And of course, since the vacuum insulation panels are a bit more fragile, they have to be treated properly. But if you treat them as any other materials should be treated, there shouldn't be any risk. I can mention, for instance, the case study that I presented, the exterior wall we had around. 10% of the panels were damaged, and not during installation, but they were damaged from transportation. So I think transportation might be a more tricky part, how to transport them, and then the actual installation phase. So if you have construction workers that are aware about how they should treat the building materials, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, very good. Next question, how significant are the thermal bridges because of the wooden beams? Are there alternative materials that would be more efficient?
Yeah, basically in the original wall or the original facade where you have the wooden beams and only the bricks and no insulation, the wooden beam actually are better insulating than the bricks. So it's first now when they insulate from the interior side that the wooden beams become a thermal bridge. And of course how big impact this will have on the energy use is depending on a number of different factors. But I guess you could use other materials than the wooden beams, but that would increase the time that you have to do the construction work, and of course increase the cost of the construction work as well. But of course you can change maybe to another material, or you could try to insulate properly around the beams. Yeah, I don't have a clear answer on that at the moment.
Okay, it's fine, I think. And finally, what is the interest of the insulation industry to come out with market-ready system solutions for vacuum insulation panels?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We are right now finishing up International Energy Agency Annex 65 within the EBC program, where we have a large number of industry partners who are very interested I think, to come up with these systems. Not so the industry doesn't have to use these VIPs as they come from the factory, but they are already installed in a system which is more maybe adopted to a fast installation on the construction site. So I think there is a large interest from the industry to do these systems, and I know there are a number of different systems already on the market where you have the VIPs integrated in facade panels and other kind of thin glass elements and things like that. So I think we will see more of these kind of systems in the near future.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. And last question for Sean. I think it's a rather complex question, but probably if you could briefly summarize, let's say, the essence of the robust details approach. I think this is what is required here, if something like this is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things about acoustics and sound insulation is it's 24/7. So if you get it wrong, if that acoustic bridge rather than a thermal bridge goes wrong, then in essence it is something immediate. And we know from an energy standpoint we're going to see this more with a seasonal cycle and then people understanding how buildings are performing and how their heating bills are going. But in terms of the applications, I think there's some great synergies. And in terms of the database of sites, that's been extremely useful in terms of tracking. The robustness and how we've changed things. Someone asked a question earlier which kind of relates to this about upskilling and, how do we get that workforce, doing the right things. And Ross touched on the right point there. If at the top of companies there is that momentum to do things, then if we give the right instructions, if we give the right design guidance, if we've got the site monitoring, there's a bit of carrot and stick going on, then we can actually then follow through. That's not to say it works every time. We have withdrawn 1 or 2 robust details because they didn't perform. There are key elements around installations of key junctions regarding screeds, for example, which have slightly more anomalies. And I think that touches back on to what Per discussed about the retrofit side and also in terms of what Jelle described with some of the conditions of looking at the edge details around roofs. Is there's an issue around that workmanship, key junctions, key edge detailing, and from an acoustic standpoint, screeds has been a key issue for that exact detailing and building it right. But in terms of application to other areas, I think there's many scopes, and I think maybe what would be good to have is actually acoustics and thermal, so you've almost got joint inspectors going out to look at these 2 real critical areas.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think this is clear enough. I don't see any more questions. So, Peter, would you like to do a closing of the webinar at this point?
Yes, thank you, Alexander. Yes, so first of all, I would like to thank all the presenters. I think we had very interesting presentations. I would also like to thank the participants for joining this webinar. And so, as indicated at the beginning, so the recordings will become available soon on the QUALICHeCK website. So if you want, you can view the presentation again. If you have other people who might be interested in, please inform them about it. And as I said, also the other recordings are available on the YouTube channel. And finally, so don't forget on February 21st, we have the 4th QUALICHeCK conference in Brussels. And also there are a number of other webinars scheduled. I would say visit the website QUALICHeCK. There are a number of other webinars in the next month to come. Thank you very much.
Already one for tomorrow, by the way. One more.
Okay. So thank you all, and bye-bye.